In 2013, painting sold at Christie's, New York for $48.8 million. The buyer, a shell company. The money, stolen. The painting, dusted by Jean-Michel Basquiat. And this is the story of how billions of dollars meant to build schools and roads for the Malaysian people ended up on the walls of penthouses, locked in vaults or floating on a super yacht somewhere in the Pacific. Here is what you need to understand. In 2009, the Malaysian government launched a sovereign wealth fund called One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB for short. The pitch was simple: borrow money, invest in energy, real estate, roads and school, and build a better Malaysia. The reality though, it became one of the largest financial fraud in human history. The US Department of Justice estimated that at least $4.5 billion were taken from the fund. $4.5 billion. And at the center of it all, not the president, not a warlord, not a drug kingpin, but a 27-year-old Malaysian financier named Low Taek Jho, or Jho Low. He wasn't elected, he held no official government title, he was just the guy in the room. Charming, obsessive, and with a level of financial recklessness that read less like crime and more like fever dream. In Las Vegas, he reportedly spent $2 million partying, and he would charter a private jet the same way most people call an Uber. Allegedly, he paid Paris Hilton $1 million to go and party with him, and he befriended Leonardo DiCaprio, and then used the stolen money to finance the Wolf of Wall Street. And that's an art history joke. He made a movie about financial fraud with financial fraud money. But here is where it gets sophisticated. Clubs and yachts are loud. Art is quiet. Art has no central registry, no mandatory disclosure of buyer identity, no public database tracking where it goes or who owns it. A painting can cross international borders as personal effect, or it can be stored in a Geneva free port, completely legally without ever being seen, taxed, or questioned. Art, in other words, is the perfect financial ghost. Between 2013 and 2015, Jho Low and his associate acquired a collection that included works by Jean-Michel Basquiat, Picasso, Monet, and Van Gogh. The DOJ later valued the art seized at around $200 million. These weren't passion purchases, they were parking spots for dirty money. In 2016, the US Department of Justice launched one of the largest kleptocracy asset recovery action in its history. Exactly call it what it was. The complaint listed penthouses in New York and Beverly Hills, a private jet, a 300-foot yacht, and art. Lots of art. The Basquiat dust heads, the one that was sold at Christie's, New York for $48.8 million. Well, the DOJ traced its purchase back to funds misappropriated from the 1MDB fund. It was eventually seized by authorities and sold, with proceeds going towards victims' restitution. And here is the part that really stays with you. 1MDB was supposed to be a sovereign wealth fund. Sovereign, meaning that it belonged to the people of Malaysia. It was capitalized with government-guaranteed bonds that Malaysian taxpayers would ultimately be responsible for. And while Jho Low was by Basquiat and partying with Paris Hilton, ordinary Malaysians were on the hook for a debt that they never signed up for. The little people pay for everything. They were simply not invited to party on the super yacht. Jho Low has never been extradited. He remains, as of today, a fugitive. Former Prime Minister Najib Razak, who prosecutors say benefited directly from the scheme, was convicted in 2020 and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Goldman Sachs, who underwrote the bonds that made the whole thing possible, paid $2.9 billion to settle with the DOJ back in 2020. One of the largest penalties ever levied against a Wall Street bank. And the art world? Glad you asked. No registry, no new disclosure laws, and no meaningful reforms. The loophole is still open. I am Carmela, and this is Art Crime Files.